Let's talk about some picks then, bud. Let's get into some picks here on DraftKings. We're going to start with the 9K and above range. Now, I will say this, like I am not, especially with the bath that I took last week, I'm probably scaling back the bankroll in terms of DFS for this no-cut event. It is a nice field. I'm going to watch it because I'm going to want to see Shadow Creek on display. But, will I have a whole lot of DFS dollars out there? Probably not as much as normal. And I know there's plenty of touts out there that are like, oh, this is the best. I love these kind of weeks when everybody else says don't play, you play. That's great for you. I think it's honestly a little bit of a personal preference. I do think there's some logic to it. There's less variability. There's more duplicates out there. It's I think there's some of that, but I also think it's preference. And for me, I just prefer not to with some of these events. Now, betting these events, I almost think I'll be a little heavier on the betting card because I love this like mid-range, these mid-range shots. I want to have a bunch of those on my outright card. But yeah, I just won't be doing the same bankroll for DFS. So 9K and above, 3 tournament plays or GPP plays, a cash play, and a fade is what we're going to give you. All right. Let's see. How do I want to start here? All right, I'm gonna tell you about a guy, Pat. Let me tell you about a guy before I tell you his name. Okay, you tell me if you get it right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Don't cheat. Top 10 in this field in approach play over the last 24 rounds. Top 30 strokes gained off the tee and DraftKings scoring over the last 24 rounds. His most recent event, he missed the cut. Did you know that he has not missed 2 cuts in a row since 2016? And that following his last 3 missed cuts, he followed those events with no worse than a T21 finish. This fellow actually sucks at putting overall, but that bent grass, he's not too bad on. It's not his worst surface. It's not his best surface, but he's not too shabby. And that in his last event on bent grass, he gained, wait for it, 7.5 strokes putting. 7.5. Now, the final little tidbit I'll give you that'll probably tip it off for you is I did say his last event was a miscut, but prior to that, he has gone 17th, 15th, 3rd, 29th, 22nd, 20th, miscut, 22nd, 21st, miscut since the restart. Do you know who I am talking about?
I don't even have to I don't even think I have to do enough thinking to feel like I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Hideki Matsuyama.
Hideki Matsuyama.
Yes, I
This
knew it.
this is a great spot to jump back on Hideki. I am hoping and wishing that people will be. He was 21% owned at the Shriners on average. Um, I'm hoping that people are going to be off of him. He lost strokes in every category, tee to green. Why did I say 7.5 strokes putting? He gained 2.5 strokes putting. My bad. 7.5 would be ungodly. He gained 2.5 strokes putting on the bent grass surface last week at Shriners. That's
I
insane
mean, that's
for
good
Hideki.
for him.
But there are just not events where he misses, where he loses strokes to the field off the tee and approach. It does not happen often. Happened last week. I think it's an anomaly. He's great at bouncing back off of miscuts. It's been since 2016, Pat, that he's missed 2 in a row. I love catching him here. It's a 4-day event. Hideki's going to be ready to go. He's going to score. Like I said, checks the box. He is in the last 24 rounds. He is 23rd in this field in DraftKings points scored. $9,200. Now, I will say this. I am all in on the studs and duds approach this week, as I'm sure most people will be. Okay. I don't love the middle range as much, and Hideki is really the only guy in the lower part of this range I'm going to have, because moving up, I love Matt Wolff, who I think will be chalk this week, but it's chalk I'm eating. He is another GPP play for me, as well as a cash play. I love the way Matt's playing right now. I think he's going to fit the profile for this course. It's a scoring fest. Give me Matt Wolff eating up these par fives all week long. He's already been in Vegas a week. So, I mean, hell, and he finished runner-up. Like, he's sown his wild oats as a young man. We talked about him last week in particular. You know, handsome young single guy with money in Vegas. Like, geez, I'm scared. But he kept it together, kept it zipped up, and hopefully he's ready to play this week. So I like Matt Wolff. And then, you know, I think I'll continue to look at guys like DJ and Xander. Those are a couple names up there that are popping for me too. I guess I'd rather have DJ. He's going to be chalky too. I think a lot of people are going to avoid John Rahm. So if you want to zig, not zag, I get it. For me, you know, it's hard to talk myself out of any of these guys really up top, but I prefer to go ahead and eat the chalk with DJ and Wolff and make it up somewhere else. But Wolff is a cash play. I think I'd start a cash lineup with Matt Wolff at 10K. I played Decky in cash too. Now, don't get me wrong. But my fade in this range is going to be Tyrrell Hatton. Coming off the win last week, I get it. And Tyrrell Hatton's been playing very, very well this entire year. He's been playing very, very well. Okay. Great player. He's obviously kind of put it up a notch in 2020. Okay. But I don't know, big events, you know, this is a big event. Is, you know, US Open, he missed the cut. PGA, he missed the cut against some tough competition. And I just don't love like the travel, coming to Vegas, 4-day guaranteed paycheck. I don't know. Like, I just don't love the little extra like motivational factor or maybe fatigue factor for guys coming over from Wentworth last week. I mean, I know, you know, it's a cushy ride, but it's a golf course nobody's seen before in Shadow Creek, really. I don't love guys coming over from that. And bent grass is his worst surface by a mile. And we all know Tyrrell Hatton is a fantastic putter. That's where he makes a lot of strokes up, is putting. He's not great off the tee. He's not great with his irons, but he's a really, really good putter. But he is insanely better putting on Bermuda and POA over his career. He is very bad. In fact, over the last 100 rounds, he's 43rd in this field in strokes gained putting on bent grass over his career. So I'll fade Tyrrell Hatton.
Okay, interesting here. I'll start with that because Hatton was also my fade. So I'll pivot off of that and give you a different fade after I give my GPP plays. But I'll start with Rory. I think at 10-6, I like him this week. I think we might get him a little bit lower owned. You know, he's had the baby and everything. Everything's behind him. No cut, so no real pressure on him. You know, I think Rory could make for a good play. You know, he's definitely long off the tee. You know, he's pretty much going to check every box that you can imagine for this type course and for, you know, and for this event. So I like him there. Again, I'll be interested to see where his ownership is, but at 10-6, I think that's a good price for him. And as I mentioned, I just think there's not a whole lot of pressure for him to really do that great this week. And, you know, in that atmosphere, I like him even more. So I will play some Rory here at 10-6. I'm with you on Matthew Wolff. He was my other GPP play for all the same reasons that you said. So I will play him in tournaments. My cash play was actually Xander. I just think, you know, I like that price better than Wolff, you know, I don't want to say I like the price better, but I just like Xander a little more in cash. I just think he's got maybe a little bit more upside, and he's just kind of a safer play, regardless of whether or not it's no cut. So I like some Xander this week as well in cash. My other GPP play is Victor Hovland down at the bottom at 9,000. Everybody's forgetting about Victor Hovland. It's not like he's played all that bad as far as his recent form. I mean, you look at it, he was, you know, T13 at the U.S. Open, you know, 20th at Tour Championship. I know there's only 30 guys there, but still, Victor Hovland is still a very good player who can win an event like this. Now,
is Victor going to go haywire his first week in Vegas?
That's what I was about to say. Like, Victor Hovland could have like a Vegas risk. Like, he has that Vegas risk behind him. Like, we don't know what could happen there, but maybe that drives his ownership down a little bit. I don't know. but I don't think he's going to be particularly high owned there at 9,000. So I like him as a GPP play.
Who do you think would pull more chicks in Vegas on a night out? It's a competition, or it's just maybe it's a week-long thing. Like, who pulls more in Vegas, Hovland or Wolf?
I think Wolf, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay.
I think Hovland, and I'm going to tell you why after you tell me why.
So if you watch Wolf, and you have, the guy talks like crazy. Like
that's why I think he's not going to make it happen.
No, but he'll talk.
Even a woman would tell him to shut up.
No, but I think he talks so much that he's not realizing that he's also not drinking and stuff there. So there's like a drink there, and he's not drinking himself out of it. Whereas like I think Hovland drinks himself out of it. Like I think he's probably like sitting there, he's so laid back, and he's just sitting there and drinking, and he doesn't stand up. So what happens when you don't stand up, like I have experience with this. If you don't stand up for like 2 hours and you've been drinking the whole time,
you don't stand up.
Eventually,
what are you, like 100?
Eventually, you're gonna just pass out, and you're done, and you're out. You're done. Like you there's nothing left you can do because you've passed out. So I think Wolf like keeps it together longer than Hovland does, and so that's why I think Matthew Wolf is going to pull more. I think he's going to have, he's going to be the winner in that department. Like Hovland's just going to like be out of it somehow.
Okay, first of all, I just realized that I never plugged my mic in. So for this whole podcast, the sound has been going through my computer. So I apologize to everybody there. Hopefully this is better. Never done that before. So here we go.
Sounds like something I would do.
Victor Hovland, the talking thing is going to work totally outside of Matt's favor here. There is not a wife wants you to talk more. Okay. Some floozy in Vegas does not want you to talk. Okay. As much. And he will talk like Matt Wolf could talk his way into it and then very shortly talk his way right out of it because he can't stop talking. And here's what Victor has going for him. Victor has, first of all, he's not from here. He's from Norway. So he's got a slight accent and he can say he's from Norway. And he's got like those rosy cheeks kind of and like kind of that all shucks kind of vibe to him. And he, I don't think the alcohol would be a problem. I think weed would be his thing, but it would work in his favor. He'd be very laid back, very calm, cool, collected, just rosy cheek Norwegian kid. Are you kidding me? He would boat race Matt Wolf in this competition.
Anyway, I think he would pass out and be done.
But anyway, Hovland.
So there you go. My fade, since you took Hatton, I will go with Morikawa. We just haven't seen he's missed his last 2 cuts. Now, granted, that was the U.S. Open, which was very difficult. But he missed the cut last week at the Shriners. Maybe he bounces back. You get a little bit better ownership on him. I understand that. But he hasn't putted well in 3 of his last 5 events. He lost 3 strokes putting, I believe. I'm right, last week at the Shriners. Yeah, lost over 3 strokes putting last week. I just think that maybe we've seen the end of, his, I want to say run because I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like maybe he's hitting a little bit of a dry spell. I know what a dry spell looks like. Believe me.
Yeah.
I've seen it. And I think like we could be getting just a little bit of a dry spell out of Morikawa. Maybe he's not quite as interested. He won the freaking PGA Championship. I mean, he's done everything he needed to do this season. So maybe he's kind of checking out a little bit here in the fall. Just a little, my theory. I could be wrong. But and look, if I get Morikawa really low owned, then I'm definitely going to play him. But right now, I think he could be a fade candidate at 9,500. So I will not play him. So there you go. We didn't talk about Brooks at all. He's back.
I'm out.
I'm out on him.
Yeah. The knee, the hip, all that. I mean, why not show up and give it a shot at a no-cut event in Vegas? Him and Jenna can do whatever. And I mean, why not do it? So, but I would definitely love to wait and see. I think there's so many good names up here that you'll have a little bit of a dip in ownership just because you can't play them all. That even if you think, oh, I'll get the ownership leverage on him, you're going to still get some ownership leverage on another great player up there too. That I'm not worried about messing with it.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
agree with
totally
you
a
there.
play. If people say, well, I'm going to play this guy up here because of the ownership in DFS, that's definitely a viable play for sure. There's a lot of good names up here near the top. Pick your player, plant your flag, but you can't play all of them. Just don't. So know that. All right, let's move to the 8K range. 2 players in tournaments, a cash play and a fade. All right, I'll start with my fade. This is where I got the 7.5 number from because I wrote it down here, but then I looked at, okay. Ricky Fowler lost 7.5 strokes on approach last week. And I have written down here, wow. That's what I have. Just wow.
That's what I have, actually.
That is a lot of strokes for Ricky with irons over 2 days. That's just a lot. So I'm not trusting the ball striking with Rick right now. I know he's working on it. I hope he gets it figured out. But man, like it's not pretty out there right now. And he's he's a name down there, 8,100. And I don't think a lot of people are going to play him, but I think you'd be ill-advised to play Ricky. All right, I'm going to go my cash play, and I definitely love him in tournaments, is Louis Oosthuizen again. Kill me if you're tired of hearing this, but I mean, give me a break. I've been talking about him for weeks as he's gone on to finish 19th, 3rd, 25th, 13th, and 33rd his last 5 events. And the ownership continues to barely do anything. Like he was 7% at the PGA, 8% at the Northern Trust, 6% at the BMW. He got up to 18% at the US Open, 12.5% last week at the Shriners. He's just ball striking. He's doing it. He's doing it all right now. Love Louis. I don't know why you wouldn't play Louis. So I'm in on him. For my tournament plays, I'm going to give you 2 guys that missed the cut last week, similar to Hideki. Scotty Scheffler, Harris English. And I think there's going to be plenty of names, plenty of touts out there. They're going to tell you to get on these guys as well. I don't think I'm going to be the only one doing this. That'd be crazy. These guys have been playing too well, too often to, have everybody jump ship because of one bad week. But Scheffler, first of all, I love the no cut, 4 rounds, 4 par 5s, short par 4. I love that for him. He's had a couple of really tough weeks with the irons since coming back from COVID at the US Open, all that kind of thing. He came back from COVID and, said he was rusty in a press conference before the Sanderson Farms, and then proceeded to lose 3.5 strokes with his irons. And then the next week, last week for the Shriners, he did cut that in half. He only lost 1.7 with his irons. Okay. He cut it in half. He's still killer off the tee. So he's putting it together. I think he's shaking a little rust off, but I still like Scotty a lot from a scoring standpoint. And then Harris English, what can you say? Like the guy's been as solid as anyone just about on planet Earth since the restart. And he finally has a miscut, what are you going to do? He lost strokes putting. He lost a stroke and a half putting and over a stroke around the greens, which, I mean, the last time both of those things happened, that he lost strokes putting and around the green, was in April of 19 at the Valero Texas Open. It doesn't happen a whole lot for Harris English. I don't think it's going to happen again. He's a very solid bent grass putter. In fact, he's 3rd in this field over the last 100 rounds in putting on bent grass. And prior to the Shriners miscut, he's coming off a 4th at the U.S. Open, good showing at Eastlake, 40th at BMW on a difficult track, 2nd at the Northern Trust. I mean, he's just been racking up top 20s and top 25 since the restart. I think you jump back on him. Don't be scared. Play Harris English. So there you go. You took a break during that, and I got to go get another beer. So
was that your tournament play? Like, give me a quick before you go.
Tournament plays were English and Scheffler. Cash was Louis. Fade was Ricky.
Okay. All right. Well, we can agree on that with Fowler. He was actually my fade as well. So now we're we're 2 categories in here, and we both have the same fade. But I do think Ricky is maybe a little bit of an easy choice, but I do like fading him this week. His game is just, it's not there. I wrote him up in the Fantasy Golf Sommelier, hoping that maybe I might be, I might catch fire one week with him, but it's just not working with old Ricky. So I will fade him as well. My first GPP play is Sung J M. I like him at 8,700. I mean, you look at the form lately. I mean, he's getting it back. I mean, he kind of had a bad, stretch in the summer. Finished T13 last week at the Shriners, T28 at Sanderson Farms. Had the, was 22nd at the U.S. Open, 11th at the Tour Championship. So the consistency, the good play is coming back. You look at his stats, he's checking the box in. Ball striking, he's top 10 in the field. Strokes gained off the tee, top 10 in the field. Par 5 scoring, he's 6th in the field. Opportunities gained, so a scoring stat right there. He is 12th in the field. Driving distance, top 25, proximity, all the things. I mean, he literally checks every single box. So I like Sung J M a lot this week at 8,700. I will play him also as my cash play as well. And then another guy that I like in tournaments is someone we saw that's not going to really check a ton of boxes when you look at the stats outside of maybe putting on bent grass, where he checks the box there. Also strokes gained off the tee. But Abraham Answer at 8,200, I like a lot this week. We saw him have a good finish last week. I think this is a good course for him. His caddy's from Vegas and lives in Vegas, so probably has a little bit of a experience factor here with Shadow Creek. So I like Abraham Answer as a tournament play at 8,200. So there you go. Quick and easy. DB, that brew there looks pretty good.
Nothing like a nice cold Wild Leap IPA and a frosted mug. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. All right. Let's get into the 7K, Pat. Before we do, we'd like to thank our friends at Fantasy National Golf Club, the best spot for PGA Tour and now Korn Ferry stats, lineup optimizers, ownership projections, all that fun stuff. If you bet on golf or play daily fantasy golf, head over to fantasynational.com/TJ, or whenever you sign up, put in the promo code Tour Junkies. Tell them you heard about them from the Tour Junkies, and you get 20% off any membership level that you pick. They have weekly memberships, monthly, or annual memberships, and then even if you change the membership plan, if you go from weekly to annually, for example, you still get the 20% off for as long as you're a member because you told them the Tour Junkies sent you. We've been with Fantasy National for over 3 years now. Love them, and that's where all this information, all the data, all the stats, all that comes from Fantasy National. Check them out. All right, 7K. Let's try to move through this. 3 tournament plays, a cash play, and a fade. All right. I will give you – let me get to it. All right. Because of the way I'm going to build a lot of lineups, which is going to be studs and duds, I don't have a whole lot above 7,400. I just don't. So an easy fade for me is going to be a guy who's Mr. Inconsistent. And I like him, and he should fit this course, but he's inconsistent, and that's Gary Woodland. I don't love Gary. He's got he came out from the restart and did okay. Had a 9th place finish at the Charles Schwab, then a 62nd, then a missed cut, then a 5th at the Workday, and then a 22nd, and then it's basically been garbage since then. So I just don't see Gary checking a whole lot of boxes. He actually, for being a bomber, he's 45th in this field out of 78 in DraftKings points scored. That's not what you want. Gary's going to par the place to death. Forget it. So he's my fade. My cash play is a guy that I'm going to jump in. I made fun of you. Last week. I will eat my crow here. On his way to finishing 13th because he is putting the doo-doo out of the ball. And that is Brian Harman. Little cockbite. Little cockbite who is what our friend Brendan Todd told us that his nickname was at University of Georgia. Well, cockbite rolls the rock. I mean, 7 strokes putting last week on a surface that is historically over his career his worst surface in bent grass. 7 strokes. And plenty of people can go, oh, putting's very variable. It is, and it could leave him. But, I mean, he's been putting the eyes out of it for his last, 7 tournaments. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a safe play. I feel like a guy like Brian Harman comes in an event like this with a lot of motivation, wanting to prove himself, wanting to compete against a big name in a big field in a tournament that he doesn't get in very often. I mean, you got to finish top 60 in the FedEx Cup to get into this or have a sponsor's exemption. Brian Harman's never going to get a sponsor's exemption to the CJ Cup. So he earned his way into this thing, and you kind of got to feel like guys like that, I feel like, play with a little extra. There's guys in this field that are going to play in this thing every year till the cows come home because they're the best in the world. And, it's Vegas, and, like, who knows what can happen, right? But there are other guys in this field that I feel like really know they come into this, and it's a rare opportunity to play in this no-cut event, get some points, play well, and compete against some of the best in the world. So Harmon falls in that category for me, and I'll go ahead and own it. I did not want to play him last week. All right. So my tournament plays. I'm gonna go down the bottom because this is what I like. I like playing down here in the bottom of the barrel here. 7K. Jason Kokrak. Wasn't on him for the Shriners.
I faded last week, and it turned out to be a good fade.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. We weren't on for the Shriners, missed the cut. But, first event coming back after the U.S. Open, almost a month off. He was just a little rusty off the tee. Normally is always gaining strokes off the tee. He lost a third of a stroke off the tee last week, which is very rare for Jason Kokrak. The last time he has lost a third of a stroke or more, just 0.3, okay? 0.3. The last time in a PGA Tour event he has lost 0.3 strokes off the tee was in June of 2019. It's been over a year. Like that's not going to happen for Kokrak again. He actually putted and chipped basically his average, and then he hit his irons basically his average. He just didn't do his thing off the tee, but he will, and he has been. 17th at the U.S. Open, 6th at the BMW, 13th at the Northern Trust, 15th at the Wyndham. Like Kokrak's a dude. He's been playing really, really well. So I love Kokrak in tournaments, and he may be a little chalky for down here, but I still like where he's at. Then I'm going to go with my boy. I've been riding him, Siwoo Kim, 7,100. The reason I love Siwoo Kim is it's a no-cut event, and its scoring matters. He is 4th. I keep telling people this. Every week I've been saying this. He's a scorer. He's aggressive. Yes, he could totally tank your lineups, but not this week unless he withdraws. Even if he plays all 4 rounds and he finishes DFL, I guarantee you he will not finish DFL in DraftKings scoring. Like, he's a scorer. He's 4th in this field over the last 24 in DraftKings points scored, 28th in par 5 scoring, 19th in strokes gained off the tee, coming off an 8th place finish at the Shriners. Guess what his best putting surface is over his PGA Tour career? Bent grass. Love Siwoo. I'm going to keep riding it. I'm going to bet him too. I'll just go ahead and spoil that as well. Finally, it's tough not to play Bubba Watson. It's $7,300, considering, Bombers course, green similar to Augusta, 4 par 5s, and Bubba's, been playing okay. He's been playing okay. 31st at the U.S. Open, 16th at Olympia Fields, 18th at the Northern Trust. All great events. He's been playing pretty good. I'm a little worried about the rust with Bubba, and despite his incredible record at Augusta National, historically, he's, over his career, he's not good on bent. But 7,300 in a no-cut event for Bubba with 4 par 5s, distance being a factor for me, that's a really good price. I'll take Bubba.
Very shocked that you had Bubba. I don't know why, but I just didn't think you would.
I like Bubba.
I have him as well as one of my tournament plays for all the same reasons. Bubba plays good on courses too like this. Has Augusta feel to it. Everyone talks about that with this course. I think, there are some dog legs on this course that will play to his advantage in his shot shape. And so I think that I think Bubba makes a lot of sense. I like the price at 7,300. You look at his putting on bent over the last 100 rounds, it hasn't been all that great, but, it tends to be one that he's comfortable when it's fast and a lot of speed and contouring and that kind of stuff. So you don't always get bent grass greens that are on courses or, like this, where there's so much slope and things like that, which I think he likes and he's creative around. So I like Bubba as well. He will be one of my tournament plays. My other tournament play is your fade, and this is a gut play for me, but it's Gary Woodland. I think actually he could have a good week this week. I know we haven't seen him play all that well lately, but you look at the scoring stats, he's 13th in the field in opportunities gained. He obviously hits it a long way off the tee. That's going to be an advantage for him. He's 13th in the field in par 5 scoring, checks the box and approach as well. I think Woodland at 7,700 is definitely going to have low ownership, because I think a lot of people are going to fade him like you are. And I think that that could end up being a mistake. And you could get a very low owned Gary Woodland this week at 7,700. And I want to be a part of that. So I will play some Gary Woodland this week. My other GPP play is Sebastian Munoz at 7,000. I mean,
Matt,
it's just
7,000.
the guy's been so damn consistent, checks boxes. You look at opportunities gained, off the tee, his ball striking, everything, the form, all of that. Sebastian Munoz is doing a great job there. So I like him at 7,000. He will be another tournament play. Another guy that I think could be a tournament or a cash play, but I'll just put him in the cash slot, is Joaquin Niemann at 7,500. He's been in fantastic
I like
form.
Too.
I feel like his time is just coming. I mean, it's like he's got to get a victory in here at some point.
Well, I mean, he's won, Pat.
No, I know, but I mean, like, he's got to get another victory because it's been a while for him. Like, I think he should have more victories than he's had at this point. I mean, before the Colin Morikawas and the Matthew Wolfs, it was Joaquin Niemann, and he kind of got left in the dust by those guys and Victor Hovland and whatever else. But I think he's just as talented and can win a lot on this tour. And so I like Niemann. He definitely,
believe it or not, he won a year ago. It just feels like a long time ago.
Well, maybe it just feels like a long time ago.
He could have won the BMW, but
yeah. But anyway, 13th off the tee. He's second in driving distance. He's 20th in putting on bent grass greens. So I like Niemann at 7,500. And then my fade is, and this is kind of a, this is definitely a cop out fade, but I can't play Justin Rose at 7,800. I think people might be wanting to play him though. At that
I'm actually
price.
shocked you don't want to play him.
You see Justin Rose at 7,800 and you're like, damn, I gotta play Justin Rose at 7,800. But he's not. I mean, stat wise, it's not too bad. But as far as his tournament play, that's been bad. I mean, just when he's been in tournaments, he's not really doing a whole lot. And I'm not going to play him at 7,800. So he will be my fade this week in this category. So there you go.
All right, 6K real quick. I'll give you 4 names I like. I'm gonna give you 3 names I like, 1 name I love. 3 names I like. I like Corey Connors. Corey has kind of hurt us a little bit in the last couple weeks. We get some info on Corey. Sometimes it happens the way the info says, and sometimes it doesn't. But I love the ball striking ability, and that I don't have to sweat him missing the freaking cut on the number with a stupid putt that he misses on the 36th hole. I love that. And the ball striking capability is there. And this, I believe Corey Connors actually has win equity here. A lot of names here do. There are a lot of names that do. But I think Corey Connors does have win equity and definitely has top 10 upside, even in this field at 6,900. Call me crazy. A guy who I almost mentioned last week, and I just could not bring myself to do it, and he finished T24, is Cam Smith. Like, all of a sudden, and I say all of a sudden, I guess it hasn't been that all of a sudden, but it feels like it's been all of a sudden. Cam Smith is playing well again because he was pretty bad. He was pretty bad. And but 18th at the Northern Trust, 20th BMW, 38th at the U.S. Open, 24th at the Shriners. Nothing crazy, but the approach play, the short game is kind of coming back for him a little bit. He's always been a really solid short game player. I don't know, like, it's an interesting name down there. Again, in a no-cut event that I think has some upside to have a great week and do well. The player that I love is Mackenzie Hughes. And I feel like Mackenzie Hughes is going to be pretty popular down here, maybe 10%, which is popular for a 6K guy. His best surface is not bent grass, which worries me a little bit, but he's a bomber, hits a long way, plenty good form. I mean, his form is pretty spectacular for a guy down here. He's 7th in the field in DraftKings points scored, 8th in par 5 on strokes gained par 5. I love Hughes here, coming off a 3rd at Corrales that he should have won or could have won. 10th at the BMW, 13th at the Northern Trust, played okay at the Tour Championship. I love Mackenzie Hughes at 68. But then if I got to go all the way to the bottom of the barrel, like you are playing a major studs and duds stack, why not play Tom Hoagie at $6,100?
Don't say it, damn it.
He's going to be like 4% owned. But Hoagie, man, Hoagie's hitting the ball solid right now. Solid finishes, not in a field like this, but in a no cut. I mean, and similar to what I said about Brian Harman, A guy like Hoagie shows up here and he's like, I mean business. You know what I mean? Like, he has to take advantage of events like this because he doesn't get into them often. These, invite only, no cut, short man kind of deals, short field events. That wasn't a Brian Harmon joke, but a short field event, like, he's got to take advantage of these things. And his irons are on point right now. 4 strokes gained on approach, 3.3 at the Sanderson the week before. Like, his irons are on right now. I think Hoagie is an interesting play at a super cheap price that you can fit in a couple of those studs and get him for 4 rounds, and maybe he scores a little bit. I mean, in the 78-man field that we're looking at here, he's 39th in DraftKings points scored over the last 24 rounds, 37th in par 5 scoring. Like, that's pretty good for a guy at basically almost min price. So Hoagie for me too.
Wow. All right. So you actually started every single category, and
oh, my bad.
That really threw me off because we try to nail down our picks, and you talked about a lot of mine. So Cam Smith was a guy I was kind of a little surprised you had him. He was somebody I had down here at 6,800 for all the reasons that you said. I like him as well. Tom Hoagie was my cheapest guy at 6,100. So appreciate you there. And then the other guy that I will mention that you did not talk about was Adam Long at 6,600. I think he makes a lot of sense this week. Now, look, he didn't make the cut at the Sanderson Farms, which was his last start, but he was 5th at the Corrales back a few weeks ago, had a top 15, kind of a sneaky top 15 finish at the U.S. Open. I think Adam Long could be a good play this week. A guy that is, especially in a no-cut event and is certainly going to be low-owned, and who has some good finishes on tour lately. So I will throw in Adam Long as well. Nobody else was written down, and so I can't really, besides the ones you've mentioned. I mean, I do like Dylan Fratelli at 6,600. He's checking a lot of boxes, but he scares the hell out of me because I never can pick him right. But I think Fratelli could be an interesting play this week as well, as long as he doesn't,
Fratelli.
Have a whole lot of ownership, but he doesn't putt that great on bent grass. But anyway, so there you go. That would be my 6K range.